Hey everybody, Dave Lindbergh with another episode of THD Podcast. Today we have a guest calling in from Dublin, Ireland, and he's from a company called Kastus, and it's kind of a very timely technology as they provide antiviral and antimicrobial coatings specifically for one application that's popular in consumer electronics is cover glass on touchscreens. So as always, we have our guest calling in co-host, from Japan, Simon Weston. How you doing this evening, Simon?
Excellent, Dave, and it is indeed evening for us in Asia. It looks like daytime for you there in Ireland, Darragh.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just coming up to midday, so it's all good. It's nice and sunny here, so it's a nice day.
Fantastic.
All right, so Darragh O'Connor, the VP of Global Marketing from Kastus in Dublin. Thanks so much for joining us today. So, yeah, Kastus kind of have a solution they've been working on for many years. Well, yeah, at least 6 years or so now. And it's coming to market to provide antiviral, antimicrobial coatings. Can you tell us a bit about the history of the company and where you come from?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, what I was going to do, Dave and Simon, is have a short presentation. So maybe I could walk you through that. It kind of tells you about the company, the technology, and kind of what we do. And anytime, feel free, guys, to jump in if you want. We can stop. We can go through any details that you want. And of course, I can make the presentation available afterwards too.
Sure. Okay. Please go
That
ahead.
works. So if you like, I can you guys see my screen okay?
Not yet. You got to share screen in the bottom middle there.
Okay, cool. No problem at all. There we go. Cool. Is that working now for you?
Perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, brilliant. So like you guys said from the introduction, I'm from a company called Kastus. So we're based over in sunny Dublin, just on the corner of Europe. And as I said, we're here to talk about, we've invented a very, very unique coating technology, which offers, as we said there, it's 24/7 antiviral and antimicrobial glass surface protection technology. So I'm the VP of Marketing, and I'd love to just walk you through our value proposition and just explain what we do.
Okay.
So really what I'm going to cover today, just going through the deck, is really, I suppose, starting off what the market needs are. Telling you about how Kastus can solve for those needs. I would like to dig into a very unique product we have, which is an aftermarket touchscreen protector, which we'll talk to you about, and then just a quick snapshot of the benefits overview as well. So at any moment, if you guys have any questions, feel free to jump in as well. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Great. All right. So I suppose setting it up, you probably don't even need the slide to explain it, but I think it's fair to say that the coronavirus outbreak that we have at the moment has changed the world's attitude, especially towards hygiene and especially a lot of the shared surfaces that we use every day in touchscreens. And what we definitely found is that consumers, but also staff, they're really looking for solutions to kind of get through their daily lives, because you use touchscreens and glass in so many different ways. And people are just looking for extra peace of mind as they go about their day-to-day life. So that's really where we fit in. So really where the problem really escalates is that the likes of hard surfaces such as touchscreens, they can actually help to, feed cross-contamination. Now, I'm not just talking about coronavirus, but also bacteria spread, that kind of stuff. I've heard people describe touchscreens as the mosquito of the digital age, which I think is very apt. And especially in today's environment, solutions which can actually help people use screens with confidence, I think, are very relevant. You guys have probably seen there was some recent studies out there that even the likes of coronavirus can live on hard surfaces for up to 28 days after transmission. That was a study by the Australian National Science Agency, which got a lot of traction around the world. So there's definitely a big problem to solve for. And that problem, as I said at the beginning, it affects not only public screens, so the likes of kiosks that we use every day to buy tickets, food, etc., but also personal devices too, because technically whatever you're touching with your finger, unless you're cleaning your screen all the time, you're going to be putting that on your screen. So it kind of is it's kind of a double whammy for us. So that's really where we come in. So as I said at the beginning, and as you said as well, David, so we're Kastus. We've been experts in the field since 2014. So I think it's important to say we haven't just popped up. We're not cowboys. We've been doing this for years, even before the coronavirus popped up. And what we offer is a very, very unique coating, which offers double protection. So it offers protection against both bacteria and viruses, including coronavirus. And really our product portfolio, it started off, we offer a chemical solution, which can be baked in at the very beginning for people making screens and any kind of glass product from the start. And also we've recently launched, as you'll see at the end, screen protectors, which has our technology already baked in, which can actually be applied as an aftermarket solution in the field. So it means that, customers, staff, etc., don't have to wait for next generation screens to benefit from the likes of Kastus. They can actually get it straight away. So I suppose the key benefits we offer, as I mentioned, is the antiviral protection against coronavirus, but also lots of other common viruses. Our coating is also antimicrobial, and it's effective against the likes of E. coli, SA, for example. And a key thing really, which really marks our technology out, and we'll talk about that more in a moment, is that primarily it's activated by natural light. So again, I'll talk about the technology in a second, but where that's different to say anything else in the world is that there are some technologies out there that actually they need UV to activate, whereas ours actually can activate indoors, outdoors, and any kind of light. So you don't need any kind of a UV lamp to activate the technology. It can activate in a normal retail environment, for example, and once it's activated, it's effectively always on.
So there's actually a criteria is the spectral characteristic of light.
Yeah, so it's basically in the visible spectrum. So it's again, probably without going into too much details, it's any kind of natural light source in it within a normal shop environment would actually activate the coating and keep it going. And as you'll see in a moment, even when there's no light source present, we have a patented ingredient, which means that it continues to kill and to neutralize viruses and bacteria in the dark as well.
If it's on a display, if it's on a display, does the light from the display activate it?
So again, if I can come back to that question later on, because when I explain how it works, I can definitely speak to that question.
Yeah.
But I suppose I would say that it's the natural lighting within a room or a setting is the primary activator. You do get some benefits from the backlighting as well on the screen, but primarily it would be just the natural light that you would find in a normal room, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And again, you'll see in a moment, but it's not to say that it's always on. So it's once that light is there, it keeps producing this. Again, you'll see it in a moment, the cloud of radicals, which neutralizes the bacteria and the viruses. So yeah, you need a very, very limited light source for it to be effective.
Okay.
Cool. I suppose in terms of our expertise, we have a very, very, I suppose, aggressive IP strategy. And so you'll see in a moment, we've over 44 patents granted and pending, because it's very important to differentiate and protect our technology. So when people do take us on, they know they're getting something very special. I would say we're recognized as the category leader in this space, and we're really trying to define and grow the category. It's still quite a young category, but we definitely would like to see ourselves as the leaders in that space. And I suppose just something which endorses that is we were one of only 5 companies out of over 1,400 which applied for a special grant to the EU Commission to actually invest in our technology to help grow it. And we were one of the winners. So actually we got a very significant investment from the EU Commission to roll out our technology, because they saw our technology as being key in the fight against COVID-19 as well. So again, this is on the deck, and there's a link there for people to read afterwards. And then finally, I would say that, there are other Me Too brands out there, which maybe wouldn't have a high brand profile. We are growing a global brand. Already we've been on CNBC over in the US. There's a video on YouTube you guys can check out afterwards. And also the kind of partners we're partnering with. So you can see there some of the brands, the likes of Zag brands, which is North America's #1 screen protector brand. Lenovo, which doesn't need any introduction, and Lavazza Professional as well. So these types of brands, as we work with them and partner with them, obviously they've got huge reach and huge brand power. And, co-branding with these guys is very important to us, but also, it benefits Zag and Lenovo too, but it's great for our global recognition around the world too. In terms of the use cases, I'm sure that's on top of one of your top of minds. So as I said, the core of what we do is we have a chemical solution which we make. Now that can be then shipped over to customers when they're making new devices. Or what we also offer is, as I said, the aftermarket solution too. But in terms of the use cases, primarily at the moment, we're talking to customers in the touchscreen space. So you can see there all types of industries and verticals that our coating technology can be applied for. It's basically anything with a screen you see across the top row there, and even on the bottom row as far as travel. I think that's probably more the shared touchscreen space. In the personal space, we're talking to a lot of the biggest companies in the world who'll be making personal devices and wearables. It's obviously high interest to those guys, because when our technology is baked in during manufacturing, it's there for the life of the substrate, essentially. Our coating technology is also applicable to architectural glass. There's big traction in the automotive industry. And also recently, we've had a lot of inquiries from the glassware business as well, because our coating is non-leaching. So it's very safe for humans, and also it offers the antiviral, antimicrobial benefits too. So what I'd love to do is, just before I go into a couple of final slides, really, I have a very short video I'd love to share with you, and it's just a graphic of our technology in action. So if it's okay with you guys, I'd just like to run this video quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Cool. So that's just a short graphic. As Jennifer Aniston once famously said, that was the science bit. But I suppose what I can now go through just in a little bit more detail, and then I'll definitely throw the floor open to questions, is you're probably wondering how is Kastus built in, because there's mention there about Kastus being baked into the surface. So really how it works is, as I said in the beginning, we've created a very, very unique chemical solution, which is primarily water-based. That's actually shipped, so we ship that over to manufacturers all over the world, but primarily we'll be over in China and Asia at the moment. But basically how it works is that the solution is sprayed onto glass. So that could be either cover glass, architectural glass, or glass for touchscreens and phones and whatnot. So it's sprayed onto that glass. That glass is then passed through a furnace at temperatures in the region of 600 to 700 degrees. So it needs to be over that 600 degree for the actual the chemistry to kick in, and actually for the coating to be physically bonded to the top layer of the glass.
Okay.
And then once, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, for people watching, just to be clear, because some people get confused, this is because of the sintering process, it has to be glass. So a lot of people might use PC or PET type screen protectors or whatnot, but that it won't work with this technology. Just to be clear.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, our technology is applicable currently for glass and ceramics is the primary uses, and the key differentiator, not differentiator is the wrong word, but the key requirement is that heating process, that sintering, needs to be over 600 degrees Celsius. If it's less than that, then number one, it won't be locked in, so it won't physically bond with the surface, and also the chemistry change won't kick in to make that particular surface photocatalytic. So the likes of plastics and other materials, they can actually be baked or finished at 200-300 degrees, which would be too low. So for that reason, at the moment, Kastus is not applicable for the likes of plastic, because it just doesn't have that. It doesn't meet that temperature range that we need for the coating to be locked in correctly.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, once it's locked in, as I said, just to skip through points 3 and 4, in terms of how it's sprayed on, it tends to be the same kind of equipment that you might use for an AF coating. So very, very simple spray, and it'd be a classic tempering furnace. So when we work with partners, they tend to already have the equipment in place. It's about just adapting it to Kastus to just have a very, very fine mist when the coating is sprayed on. What we've also done as well, just for customers who maybe don't want to set up things at scratch, is we also sell Kastus pre-treated glass. So we have our own OEM partner in China, and we can actually create Kastus pre-treated glass bespoke, made to specs. So if a touchscreen manufacturer or integrator wanted to buy in Kastus glass and then integrate into their screens or their kiosks or whatnot, we also make that possible too.
Okay.
So I think, Simon, this is probably where your question came up, which I'm happy to jump back in.
Yeah.
You're asking me, how does the technology work? So basically, once the Kastus coating is sintered into the top layer of the glass, whether that's, as I said, architectural glass, touchscreens, whatnot, that's locked in. So it's there pretty much for the lifetime of the substrate. It doesn't deplete over time. We've lots of physical abrasion testing done to say they will last a very, very long time. But essentially how it works is once natural light, hits that coating. So let's just, for argument's sake, a brand new touchscreen goes into a restaurant. The first time those lights are switched on, it starts to, the coating then starts to react with moisture and air and creates what's called reactive oxygen species, or ROS. And essentially what happens is that once that process starts, it then creates an always on cloud of these ROS. So that anytime bacteria, viruses then, reach that surface, they instantly start getting broken down and they can't multiply. And the multiplication thing is quite important because even the likes of E. coli, that can double in 30 minutes. So our coating, straight away breaks it down and straight away stops it from multiplying. And we use a lot in our language. We talk about always on, we talk about 24/7. So even when there's no natural light present from a light bulb or whatnot, as I said, we have that ingredient which continues to kill and break down bacteria and viruses in the dark as well. And one of the key benefits about how our process works is it's actually a photophysical process, as opposed to the likes of silver, which leaves a surface to poison bacteria. And because it's photophysical, it means that the bacteria can't actually build up immunity to our coating technology. So, some coatings, they may kill 99%, the 1% that it doesn't kill potentially will get stronger. So it could become a superbug in the future. Whereas with our technology, with this particular process, the bacteria can't build immunity. So we're not contributing to the superbug problem, if that makes sense. We're actually part of the solution.
That does make sense, because that's really interesting to me, this whole thing about using a lot of sterilizing agents. And does that not just filter out the most potent viruses?
100%. It's something which, a lot of people ask us about it. And if you Google AMR, or antimicrobial resistance, it's antibiotics is obviously the poster boy for this that everyone's aware of. But there's also an element where, if we're using too many sprays that don't quite kill bacteria fully, that whatever stays behind, like you said, Simon, becomes stronger. And obviously we're in the middle of a global pandemic, but even pre that, experts were saying that this AMR problem was going to be a bigger killer than cancer by 2050. So it's already killing thousands of people all over the world. It's the fact that bacteria is getting so strong. And I'm not saying we're a silver bullet for it, but we're definitely part of the solution.
So I think, you use the figure of 99.9%. Where does that come from, and why do you end up 0.1 short of the 100?
Yeah, so it's actually 99.99%, so 0.01. So yeah, if you like, let's see if it's the next slide. Yeah, here we go. Perfect segue here. So basically, how that works, if I take the middle one there and the surface bacteria, so how the validation works is that we believe in validation. It's critical to us. So all of the reports, all the claims we do are fully backed up. But there's a global ISO, which is called ISO 27447, which has been designed for light-activated antimicrobial technologies such as Kastus to prove efficacy. So the way this works is that you basically have the coated surface versus the control, and then over a certain time period, then it's measured. The bacteria rate, the kill rate is then measured and assessed at the end. And so the 0.01%, that's the best result we've got. So we actually have had 99.999, but we kind of leave it as 99.99 just for the purpose of everyday communication. I think what I would say, Simon, is that this is actually a rolling technology. So it's not, it's finished at 99.99. It means that little mini percent that isn't killed, it's straight away it's killed on the next roll, if that makes sense, because this is done over a specific time period.
And the effect is the same for bacteria and viruses?
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, we have the very high viral antibacterial results, and it's one technology that does both, actually. So probably recently in the last 6 months, it's when we started testing against viruses because of what was happening in the world. But prior to that, we just tested against bacteria. So yeah, it's the exact same effect. And so far, the result we just had there on the left-hand side there came from a lab in the UK, and is actually greater than 99%. So we just had a result back there to say that we're neutralizing over 99.99% of the coronavirus on surfaces, which is huge for us.
How do you measure the amount of bacteria or virus on a surface? At the end of the test, let's say.
Yeah, so I suppose it's not for me to measure it. It's a global ISO standard, and so it's really for the lab technician. So it's normally done by a count, and so it's basically obviously the beginning and the end, and then whatever's left, they would count that, and they would have a mathematical equation to work that out.
You take a swab off this thing and look at it under a microscope, or is it a PCR test?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's why I don't have my CTO on the call, so I probably wouldn't be able to get into all the detail on it. But what I'm aware of is, I've seen I've seen the bacteria counts and the viral counts, how they do it, but it's normally under a microscope where they would do a count at the end. So they're following the ISO protocols about how to do that.
Awesome.
Okay.
But you'd normally finish up with an R value, and then there'd be some an algorithm or math involved to actually convert the R value to the actual percentage kill rate, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. Maybe this is coming up, but the comparison with like the silver-based and versus this Kastus coating.
Yeah, it is. No problem. So it's just it's actually coming up, Dave, in 2 slides, I promise. Just really quickly, just to mention to people, I know this is not a full promotion for Kastus, but just to say our technology we have IP all over the world. So if people do start to work with us, they can be reassured that it is unique and it's protected. So Dave, just to your point there, so I suppose if you think about what's out there in the market in this category, if you think about antimicrobial coatings, there's kind of 2 main buckets, I guess. There's the light activator technology, which we'd be very unique in that space, because the other light activated technologies would require UV light to be effective. And then you have the metal-based technologies. So the likes of silver will be the most popular. I'm not going to mention any names of companies on here, but silver would definitely be at the moment the most popular type of technology for antimicrobial. So again, without going through every single line on the slide, the biggest difference for Kastus versus what we've seen so far on the silver technologies is that we've got the results, the lab results, the ISO results to prove that we can neutralize coronavirus and other viruses, whereas silver-based technology, based on what we've seen, is not effective against viruses. So silver is very effective and is effective against bacteria, but wouldn't be effective against viruses, which I think is a huge thing. I would say the second, a couple of other key points I suppose to point out is that our coating, the longevity is very, very, very long. Because it's light activated, because it's locked in, the fuel source effectively is light, so light and air. So they're not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Whereas the process of how silver works is once it's coated, it needs to leave the surface to actually poison bacteria. So over time, logically, actually, that fuel source would deplete over time. So you'll see with Kastus, it's a steady effectiveness rate. So what we'd expect to see with silver is that the effectiveness would reduce over time as that fuel source depletes. Environmentally, we'd be superior. There's a lot of studies out there where people are concerned about silver, and there's an EPA quote there, which you see on the screen. But because silver is a leaching technology, there have been, a lot of people are concerned about the effects of silver on the environment and also people too. I mentioned earlier the fact that, bugs can't build up a resistance to our products. So we're not causing part of the superbug problem globally. I mentioned that our technology is globally patented. You tend to see with silver that there's a lot of Me Too white label technologies out there, whereas ours is very unique. And when we do partner with people, we always ask that it's called out, so people are aware of that. And finally, I suppose more from a marketing point of view, which is my world, we are building a global brand, and you see the partners we've been working with, where I think a lot of the silver brands that are out there would be, I suppose, ingredient technology brands, white label, and wouldn't necessarily have their own brand. I mean, there are some with brands, but generally speaking, it would be unbranded. So I think that's, I suppose in a nutshell, these would be the key differences. And if there's anything you'd like to ask about that.
No, but just thinking like having the global brand, does Kastus mean anything?
The name Kastus?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story behind the name is that it's very similar to the Latin for clear, which is Kastus with a C. So that was kind of the inspiration for the name. So technically it doesn't mean anything, but if I do my job, then Kastus will mean something in the future, because we want people to, when we work with partners, and partners are up for this as well, by the way, it's to have that Kastus protected symbol on touchscreens and glass and anywhere where it's produced. Because the ultimate goal is that Kastus is the gold standard for screen protection, glass protection, and consumers and staff will actually look for the Kastus badge to know that it's protected. So it's almost like the Intel inside. When you see Intel, you know it's quality, you know what you're getting. Right. You've got the likes of Kite Mark in the UK as well. So that's really where we're going. That's the kind of brand that we're trying to build.
Okay. And then, some other things related to display technology. Those optical guys are quite fussy. It's got perfect clarity. Does it impact add any haze or blue shift or anything like that the optical guys watch out for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I didn't put everything on the slide. So yeah, so hey, it's crystal clear. There's no impact on clarity. So you know, a lot of our partners, not competitors, have tested that, and they're totally fine with the clarity. It's crystal clear. You won't see any difference. In terms of the touch sensitivity, so in all the tests we've done, we haven't seen any impact on PCAP. And not only the tests we've done, but also our partners have done extensive testing too. So because it's applied at such a thin nano level, there's no impact on that.
Okay.
Who are your customers? What level are you selling at?
Yeah, so the types of customers we're dealing with is, I mean, I mentioned at the start there, so there'd be big global customers, the likes of ZAG, who are North America's #1 screen protector brand. They've obviously got a footprint all over the world. We've recently partnered up with Lenovo, who you probably heard of. So at the moment, it's related to their OEM solutions business, so it's more B2B. The likes of Lavazza Pro, big global coffee brand, you probably heard of it. Company called Inficraft, who would be based in Korea, but they would be servicing a lot of the banks in Korea, and they're looking at a global footprint on the banks. So I suppose we tend to have, it's rare that we work with the end brands. It's more working with resellers and partners and manufacturers who would actually be integrating Kastus into their offering, and then actually selling that on downstream, if that makes sense.
So what I mean is you would actually make the pitch to those brands, but ultimately you actually ship the chemical compound to a glass manufacturer of their choosing.
Yeah, if you like, should I, I'm just wondering if I just can't see you guys, should I stop sharing and we can kind of talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, it's nice to see your faces there. That's much better. So to answer your question, it depends on who the customer is. So I suppose our strategy is like push-pull, you would say. So for sure, there's end brands like big grocers, big retailers who will be interested in our products. So, you know, getting them interested, I think, is important. So we'd be talking to those guys. But then ultimately, depending on the products, if someone wants to create a brand new touchscreen or a brand new device, they would come to us. We would ship them the chemical solution, and we'd help them with the manufacturing setup if they wanted to manufacture it themselves. If they didn't want to deal with the chemical solution and they wanted to just have the Kastus treated glass, they can buy that Kastus glass from us and then integrate it into their touchscreens for new builds. Now, what we've also done is we've also recently launched a range of screen protectors too, which are tempered glass, and we can go from 4 inches up to 34, which means that any touchscreen, which are already in the field, you can actually apply a Kastus screen protector onto that to give all the benefits of Kastus, but actually to protect until the next gen comes along. So to answer your question, sometimes we ship the chemical solution, sometimes we ship the Kastus glass, and then recently we've done a lot of business on the screen protectors, which we make ourselves.
Very interesting. So you were a manufacturer, or these is produced in a chemical factory? Yeah,
no, again, great question. So if I talk of the chemical solution itself, so we would manufacture that ourselves with our toll partner. So Kastus, that's all made in Ireland. And the actual treated glass would be made with, we've an OEM partner over in China. And the screen protectors are also made in China as well. So they'd be Kastus branded. So effectively, that's our kind of branded products. And then the glass would be more of a back-end product. And the chemical is more of a integrated product, if that makes sense.
Yep, sure does.
So I understand that people can... they can go, there's some protectors out there for a few models of phones. The Pixel and the iPhone, I think, were announced. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think the screen protector side of things is very interesting, and I may jump back into one of my slides. But at the moment, with the likes of ZAG that we're working with, they'd be best known as a consumer brand for phones and tablets. Mm-hmm. And so they were super interested in our technology. We've been working with them. We announced in CES this year. But recently, for their new models, for the latest iPhone 12 and also the latest Google Pixel, they had Kastus technology baked into their screen protectors too. So we'd be working with ZAG and working with their OEM, downstream partners to integrate Kastus into their screen protectors at source, and then it would become part of their brand selling, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's really for the consumer space. But as I said, we do have our own B2B products as well, which we are selling around the world too.
Under the Kastus name in a Kastus box, right?
Exactly, that's it. Yeah. I mean, if you like, I can quickly. I'm conscious. I'm trying to do many slides, but I can quickly I can quickly jump into just the screen protector, just 2 really quick slides, because I think it might be interesting for both of you and your listeners to see what's out there, because quite frankly, there's a lot of businesses and customers coming to us because they want solution today. They don't want to wait for the next generation screens or glass. So what we actually did is this working? There we go. Sorry, guys. There we go. Perfect. To your question, Dave, and Simon, you could be interested as well. We put together these B2B screen protectors, which at the time no one else was doing something like this before. So it's actually quite unique. There were actual films out there which were, well, I'll show you in a minute why they're different, but no one was doing tempered glass screen protectors with this type of technology for large screens. So what we did is we actually, if you like, we took the idea of the mobile screen protector and we supersized it. And we were able to make it bespoke depending on what the requirements were for the customer. We were also able to make it thin enough that it didn't impact the PCAP or the touch sensitivity or the clarity or anything like that. And yeah, so this, I suppose, these are the USPs of what we offer. So it's, you have all the benefits of Kastus. It's also anti-shatter. I think the big thing there is the size range. Nothing like that out there from a tempered glass point of view. And also, the fact is it can be easily applied. So you don't need to have an engineer to go in. Actually, people in the shop or the store could actually apply it themselves. It's super easy. It's like applying a mobile screen protector in your own house as well. And then just to I think you were asking about this, Dave, as well. So differences versus what's out there is, we talked about the antiviral results. I think the material, we would be tempered glass. The competition will be polymers or plastics. It's very highly resistant because we have a 9H rating versus others. And then clarity wise, it's clear, it's less than 1%, whereas a lot of these films would have a haze. So while there is a solution out there in inverted commas for the market, we think ours is better. And so far, a lot of customers are coming to us and they agree with us.
Maybe an oddball question, but like knowing like the iPhones and the Apple Watch using sapphire lenses, has that been thought about as a possibility for a substrate material that the coating will work on?
Yeah, so nothing's been ruled out at the moment. So as you can imagine, Apple are very busy guys, and they're sometimes hard to get their attention. So yeah, we'd love to talk to Apple. So if you're listening, Apple, pick up the phone. We'd love to talk to you guys. But yeah, look, to be honest, so far, when companies have come to us looking for applications for the technology, we figured it out, and so far we haven't hit any walls in terms of what the applications could be for screen devices.
Okay.
So you've been shipping goods for how long?
Yeah, so basically we've been selling Kastus probably for about 2 years to customers. So it's almost like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. It's a different world for us as well, if you can imagine.
And how much of an effect? How much of a change from the COVID?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what's happening is tragic, but for our business, it's made a massive difference for us. Yeah. I think the big difference was, I suppose, pre-COVID, people thought it was a nice to have, and they didn't really, they said, oh yeah, it's nice, looks good, yeah, I get it, but they were saying their customers weren't necessarily banging the door down looking for it. Yeah. Even though we had research saying that people would want it if people were willing to give it a crack. So I think what's changed really since Q1 really this year is, our inbox is flooded with customers coming to us asking for solutions, and it was around that time in Q1 where we pivoted and we actually put together that screen protector product, because we had so many people wanted to work with us, but there's a longer lead time in setting up manufacturing downstream, and people were looking for solutions straight away. So that kind of gave us the confidence to invest in creating a new product. So to answer your question, night and day, probably 50-to-1 ratio in terms of inquiries.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Okay.
It's incredible.
And what might people look forward to on the horizon? What kind of new stuff? People watch this long? What kind of tidbits might they get for coming in the future? Yeah, sure. So no, it's a great question. So so today, I mean, our focus is I'm sound like a politician now. I'm not answering your question. So I'd say today very much it's touchscreen glass, like there's huge opportunities. I think we're looking to expand into other areas we hadn't even thought of. So glassware, for example, also are new categories which have just come up, which is really interesting for us. So I think to answer your question, we're going to be expanding other areas for our Kastus glass technology to see where we can help customers. Kastus ceramics, we've got some new technology coming in the future on that, which is going to be quite interesting.
And also there's new categories with regarding metals. So, variations of our technology for metals or anti-corrosive type products, and also 3D printing is something which is going to be coming down the track very soon as well. So there's a huge market for, businesses who want to create parts without actually making massive numbers. And our technology fits very well into that, just to keep those parts whole and stop them from, keep them much more protected than they normally would be. So definitely at the moment it's expanding, but then coming down the track, 3D printing and metals will be the next big thing for us.
Okay. And are you guys a public or a private company?
So that's a...
Sorry, there's just two questions. Who do you want me to go first?
Take Dave's question. Public or private?
Yeah.
Oh, so no, great question. So we're private just now, and let's see what the future holds. But definitely we're private just now. So we're, our CEO and founder John Brown will be the man in charge.
Okay.
And I think Simon, you had a question.
I was just curious. So for future applications, you have the sintering temperature at 600 degrees. Is that something that could be reduced?
We've thrown that to our technical team to look at.
Yeah.
Because if it was possible, for sure. I mean, obviously on the market and business development, if there were applications, if we could figure it out for plastic and other materials, it would be huge for us. Because we get a lot of requests on that. But at the moment, the technology just won't work in that for those low temperatures. But we've definitely got an open mind on it.
Fantastic.
All right. Very good. Any other questions from you, Simon?
No, that really covers it, actually. That's my notes. That's my notes all done.
Okay. Darragh, anything else to add that we might have overlooked?
No, I suppose I'd say that one thing which, there's going to be some really fun stuff coming on the brand soon as well, because I think, we've got new global campaigns coming the next couple of months, and there's going to be a lot of work on our website and so on. And no, I think if any of your listeners are interested in talking to us, we love to talk. I think we're very collaborative. Our technical team are very supportive, and we're willing to, help people around the world to, get up and running if they really believe in our technology. So, no, I'd say, look, it's an open invitation for people to get in touch. I'd say that's probably the last thing I'd say.
Okay, so we'll put all your social media and all your contact details in the description below. So thanks to Simon for staying at work a little late tonight from Japan, and Darragh O'Connor from Kastus in Ireland. Very much appreciated for you come on and explain this exciting technology to us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
okay.
Darragh.
So everybody, please click like and subscribe, all that cheesy stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.